Hey guys, what is up? So today I will be telling you about the top 10 things about the Wano arc that just make it absolutely horrid. So that was actually clickbait. I'm actually just gonna talk to you about things in general that I noticed about this arc, why I think it's actually like not good. I think it's one of the worst One Piece arcs, to be honest. But yeah, so before we jump into all the longtime viewers, like all 1.3 of you, um, basically, this is not me like exiting my retirement. It's more like, oh man, I need water. 1 second. Yeah, I'm not out of video retirement. It's more like I still will make a video if there's something that I really, really want to talk about. So I guess in a sense that really hasn't changed. And so as for why I decided to make this video, this is to everyone now, not just the one fan. So oh, by the way, I'm using my phone's microphone, but I couldn't figure out like an easy, lazy way to connect the audio to my computer. So I'm just literally making a video call through video call software and taking that audio on my computer. So it's a really ghetto method, and I just hope like there's been like issues with echoing and all that stuff, and like catching all these little sounds. So hopefully you're not getting too much of that, but my voice should be clearer. Anyway. So why am I doing this video? A lot of people I feel like I've been saying online now that Wano's done, there's this whole turnaround. It's like maybe since the majority opinion was to hate Wano, now the cool thing is to be like edgy and say, yo, Wano was actually good or something. So I've been seeing some people say, oh, I've gone back and reread it all, and now that I can read it all at once, it's actually been pretty good. I really love this arc. And then, yeah, the other day I actually unironically saw a post on Reddit, like 4K upvotes. I don't use Reddit, I just searched Google, and it was like, yo, Wano Arc is the best arc in One Piece, like 4K upvotes, and everyone was agreeing. Well, that's how Reddit is. Anyway, I don't know why I'm complaining. So let me just start. I'm gonna start talking to you about just my thoughts on Wano, and yeah. All right, so first of all, I just really wish that, when Luffy and Zoro finally met after all of Whole Cake was finally finished, that reunion could have been done so much better. Like, for example, from a writing point of view, like build things up and then have them meet like in the middle of like a big fight, or have a bunch of like build up, like emotional build up, whatever, and they reunite when like the conflict is at a high point. That could have been really good. Like, oh, in this fight, we really need each other. Oh, it'd be great if like we could have a swordsman fight with me right now, blah blah blah. Instead, they just kind of met randomly, so that's a place already where it's like a missed opportunity. And then so I think for Act One and Act Two of Wano, obviously there's like a huge filler problem, which is everything feels like filler. And the reason is, the editor back then, whether it was Takano Jim or just a bunch of editors in general, were telling Oda, "Oh, here's our strategy, our great idea to get readers back." Which is going to be marketed to everyone that you can start the One Piece manga with Wano. And I don't even know if they marketed that well enough for people to like even hear the message, but they definitely did not get the message. And yeah, basically like I don't think people want to start a manga like they don't feel right starting a manga from like volume 90. And so yeah, so the sales dropped. That did not save the sales. But anyway, because of that, I think Oda wanted to like reintroduce all the characters and blah blah blah. So yeah, that said, basically, besides the filler feeling, as I was saying, another huge problem of Act One and Act Two is that Oda has like a super light-hearted feeling to all of these arcs, despite this happening in the enemy territory during a battle against the strongest enemy in the series so far, supposedly. Like Whole Cake had much spicier tension when um just like, for example, here in Wano, when Luffy gets beat the shit out of him and he gets thrown in jail by Kaido, he could die any day, hypothetically speaking. The crew members aren't like reacting properly to these events. They're just chilling around eating soba with like Sangoro, and like they're just chatting and saying, "Oh, Luffy, he'll be fine." But literally they do not know he'll be fine. Like I just think Oda is too busy thinking of too many things in his head that he's unable to write these characters with the actual like humanity that they deserve or maybe used to have. Like, I understand that having the characters be confident in Luffy is nice. Like, for example, how Shanks' crew members never really worry about Shanks. But the difference is that this is Luffy versus Kaido, not Shanks versus Kid, for example. Other missed opportunities, for example, Sanji, he was talking about, oh, I hate Germa, I hate my family, and then he just takes the suit and uses it against page one before Onigashima arc even, I mean, part of that Onigashima starts. So, which is, the later part of Wano. So, oh man, I'm running out of water. This is not good. This is like 10% into the video. So, oh, actually, let me pull up an image of what I'm talking about. I guess that might make the video a bit more interesting. Although it's already 5 minutes in, so most people have probably already clicked away. All right, so I'm not gonna get a new image for every single thing I talk about. That's way too much effort. But anyway, Sanji should only have used the suit when he was pushed to the brink. Instead, Oda just really has him use it on a whim, which really cheapens all his feelings that have been built up towards, his family over Whole Cake arc. And it also, like I said, I've been saying, like the Luffy Zoro moment, it wastes a chance for building up to a really big moment. When you actually spend time building up, you can have these things like really pay off. But here it's just like, you know what? I'll use it. There really wasn't like a huge build up. Anyway, so another missed opportunity is the Orochi party. They had like all these ninjas in there, like probably 20 of them, and then the Robin infiltration, and it could have been a crazy battle. Like I was thinking, for example, in Jujutsu Kaisen, which I don't really like, but when Maki is raiding the Zenin house, that was like a 3 or 4 chapters of just pure choreography and blood. Pretty cool. But instead, in One Piece, we just see 20 new character designs and they don't even fight at all. So we're just rushing through the story, and Oda still stubbornly wants to shove in all of this content that's, in his notebooks that he's been planning for decades. He wants to shove in these 20 new ninja character designs, but he doesn't have the time for them to literally do anything. So that really does not help. So the latter half of Act 2 of Wano now, so we're kind of moving on. Let me pause and change images. All right, one of these times I'm gonna forget to pause or forget to press play, and then I'm gonna hate myself. So Act 2, the latter half of Act 2, to be specific, it was so damn boring. It was like reading a history book. And by that I mean like basically instead of actually seeing events play out, you're just told that they happen basically because you just see like one panel and an explanation. There's no actual humans taking actions or seeing like what humans are thinking. It's just a bunch of like it's like you're playing like a really like sloppily made RPG, and you have all these side quests like a fetch quest, and all of these are just justifications for making the like entire Wano arc actually work, and the Onigashima raid in particular. So for example, you have like basically entire pages that are just like, oh, like what's it called, like side character A tells side character B, C, D, E, and F, can you join our crew? Okay, great, now we have 500 more fighters. And this literally does not matter. These characters don't matter, the 500 extra fighters don't matter. Like I'll talk about, well, I won't talk about this later, so I'll talk about it now. But during the Onigashima arc, after this, way after this, you have like the CP0 guys playing like Go, except like they're not using the right rules anyway. I'm sure, I'm writing for kids, so it doesn't matter. So they're using gold pieces, like black and white pieces, to show like how many units like each side has, but that literally doesn't matter either. It's just all a waste. Anyway, about the side quests from RPGs, there's also a side quest to like get 500 more swords. Like honestly, you could have just said, okay, we have swords hidden and we're just gonna get them. Instead, we need to go through all this bullshit no one cares about. All right, so now we're gonna actually talk about Onigashima. Let me change images. All right, so here's some of my thoughts. So first of all, the Oden flashback. So okay, I think Oda actually forgot how to create characters that are likable, which is actually very important for a manga, which is at the very least you have to consider it half of a manga's it being created is because of the commercial aspect. You need to sell the characters, to sell the volumes, to sell the merch, and to just make it like a good manga, honestly. So normally, the delinquent kind of character, like ora ora ora, like Timmy, right? So let me see if I can roll my R's. Kora! Okay, I couldn't do it. All right, anyway. So you can have delinquents, but why are they likable? If you just have like, okay, I would say maybe in the West, if you have just like a gangster character, they might be likable just because they're a gangster. But I would say if you're like writing for a Japanese audience, especially or just an Asian audience where they're known for like more conformity or just like fitting in. I'm not assigning any value to that, like positive or negative. I'm just saying that's a psychological phenomenon that's been studied. Um, you kind of have to show that like even if you have a delinquent who's like acting out and especially troubling others, you need to make sure. Let me just check if my audio is working. I'm gonna check once in a while. Hello, 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 hello. You need to check. Okay, good, good, good. All right, so if you have a delinquent character in a manga, you have to also add gap moe. For example, classically for delinquents, you have them like, they see some rain, there's like a stray cat in a box that's been abandoned or an abandoned cat, and they put an umbrella there, for the cat, and that's like a gap moe moment for a delinquent. But here in the Odin flashback, the characters are just delinquents. Kinemon is literally just like harassing, like beating up people for money. Um, and then he like kind of causes the huge boar to attack the town, and this is just like people getting in the way of other people's lives. And Odin, he's literally like he's first like talked about like as a baby he did this, as a kid he did this, and then all the things he did are basically like messing with people. And in his big like reveal scene of his design, I believe, he's shown at a funeral, literally cooking food on top of a skeleton. And the family of the skeleton, this is a funeral, by the way, the funeral day, and the family of the deceased are crying about this man desecrating their family member. The daughter of that skeleton is there. Why would Oda or his editor think this is a good idea? It actually kind of pisses me off to think that, like, you know, they have such a great series, so many great moments, and these two people, the mangaka and the editor, are like laughing at each other, thinking, "Oh, yo, wouldn't this be such a good idea if we have like Odin, like literally desecrate a corpse as an introduction, bro? I'm sure people will love him." Like this frustrates me. It's like ignorance frustrates me. Anyway, and no wonder sales would go down when characters are this unlikable. So next, I understand that Oda is probably not probably, he literally says it. He is super inspired by Rakugo. At the end of the Wano arc, it's closed off by a Rakugo show. And then he has to put in a lot of Japanese culture and folklore into this arc. It's Wano, but he doesn't have to. But his thick ass notebooks, I'm sure he put in so many cool ideas. But as a writer, you can't just write for yourself. You have to like write for your audience in a sense, at least partially. So anyway, I'm saying he's probably inspired by a lot of these folk tales, but having Odin dance in the streets for 5 years, I think is just way too stupid. But I'm sure many people have talked about this, so I'm not going to touch on it too much. Now, I didn't want to talk too much about this until I finished the whole arc because I didn't really understand the mechanics of Toki's time fruit. But even at the very end, I didn't really see the actual activation conditions, which some people will be like, "Yo, Hunter, why do they waste our time with all the explanations?" And hey, I get that, but for One Piece, right? You should at least have a little bit because then you'll have people like me who are being annoying and picking things apart. Like, why when Odin, when they went to fight Kaido for the first time, why didn't and when Odin got thrown into jail because he lost and he was going to get executed in 3 days, why didn't Toki just send Odin 20 years into the future to save him from the execution? It should have been possible. As far as I can tell, she was able to send Momo to the future by being like in the same space and like touching him, right? So I don't see why she did not do that, unless there's mechanics to her power I don't know yet, or that Oda retcons, I don't know. Um, so yeah, and she was able to touch Odin when he was in jail. It's literally shown. Um, so it seems like she could have done it. Or as some guy on the internet said, and I was like, oh, that's a good idea too. She could have sent Kaido to the future, entire like country of Wano saved. Um, in general, though, when the scale gets big and the timeline gets long and the number of chess pieces grow in number and you start like inventing different chess pieces with different powers, like the time chess piece and so on, obviously it makes sense that things will start losing kind of coherence and they'll make less and less sense. I understand and I do not blame Oda for it. I think Oda tried really too hard with this arc. This makes me worry though for his final like big fight arc, which he says will make this and Marineford seem like small fights. So I would say it's very rare for large cast of named characters when you have like many named characters to be done well. I would say World Trigger and probably the current Hunter x Hunter arc are good examples of that. I always recommend those. Anyways, the next point I want to make is that it feels like even without most of the samurai, I mean the Akazaya 9, the exact same shit would have gone down. Luffy would have reached Wano. I don't remember the exact plot details. I'm assuming he would have actually like reached Wano at some point. He would have seen, oh wow, this place sucks, everyone's suffering. And then he would have gone to fight Kaido, and then he would have, nearly died. Joy Boy would have awakened, he would have beaten Kaido. Now down the line, maybe they need like, Momonosuke to like activate what's it called, like Pluton or whatever. Oh, I don't care. I'm just talking about the Wano arc, okay? I'm saying even if most of the Akazaya 9 samurai did not exist, like ever, honestly, the same shit would have happened. Wano would have been rescued. Okay, Kaido would have been defeated. Even if you want to argue like the specifics of like the story and like the world building of Wano and how blah blah blah, like they had 569 swords, not 432, so this wouldn't have. I don't care. I'm just saying he could have written the story without all this bullshit. So despite all that, I would say the backstory of Odin in Act 2 was very fun for me, or maybe that was Act 3, I don't know. But seeing, Roger and Whitebeard just like going from all these islands that we've seen already in the story, most of them, some of them at least, very cool just to revisit those things. Other problems I would say that existed with the entire Wano arc so far, up until like just up to pre-Onigashima, would be the tonal dissonance, probably because I mentioned this earlier, but because of a lot of Japanese storytelling, like customs and tones, um, it's more evident when you read it in Japanese, which is what I did. Also in Japanese, all the move names like Ragunaraku, they have like kanji. It's like pretty cool. It's like puns basically. All the kanji have meanings in like on their own. And then they also have the Ragunaraku, which is its own meaning. But then the ra and the ga and the whatever all have their own meanings. I don't remember if the translators translated those, but it's Viz, so I assume you always assume the worst with Viz. But basically, yeah. So anyway, but like when you read it in Japanese, you can tell from a lot of like the ways characters speak, I would say, and also the way the narrator speaks and so on. And just looking at how characters behave, like you don't need to read in Japanese to see a lot of this, but it's a very like it's borrowing a lot of Japanese storytelling like customs, and it's the kind of one like dong 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 yo, and then it's like I am the righteous Donchisuke Bokoko of the Hanabi district, and I have lived 54 years in these righteous areas. Oh, I am the one who holds the pride of my town, and it's like that's how you introduce someone while making all these like like poses and stuff, because there's like these things and like there's historical films and whatever about like for example Yakuza, they introduce themselves with this pose and whatever, and I understand that, but like you can't just force all these things into this story, especially in like kind of scenes that are meant to be more dramatic or serious or stuff like that. I don't know. I don't want to be the guy who has to be like One Piece has to be serious, but anyway, so yeah, I think that whole like yo dong 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 like that kind of like Japanese storytelling style is forced a bit too hard. It made it feel like not One Piece. I wanted to read Wano, but in One Piece style. This is like one most of it was like Wano, but in like Japanese kabuki stage play style. You know what I mean? All right, so I talked quite a bit. Let me see if the audio is still working. I hope so. Um, testing, testing, testing. Okay, it's a bit delayed, but I think it's still working. Okay, so the second big problem I've had with the entire arc so far up until like Prio Nigashima is that so much of the dialogue is literally just logistics. So, for example, let me see if I can. All right, I'm not gonna pull up the image. I have it right here in front of me though. So I guess why it's logistics is like what I talked about earlier. Oda just wants to. What did I even say earlier? Oh, like how it was like an RPG side quest thing. Yeah, so I think the reason why, excuse my burp by the way, the reason why Oda like does this is I guess like to justify why things are logically coherent. But you have a whole page. I'm just gonna speed read this page. Um, Where are the 3,500 people from the excavation labor camp? I don't see them. Or the 200 Yakuza from all over the nation. There were 200 of Dogstorm's musketeers at Itachi Port, and 280 from the Atamayama Thieves Brigade. Those dozens of ships we repaired with their help were supposed to be here by now, plus enough weapons for every last one of them, delivered from the region of Ringo. Did you run into trouble somehow? So that entire page is literally just like various characters, including main characters, literally losing all of their humanity and their character and personality, and they're just saying, we have 500 members of this force. We are meeting at this island. And the worst part is none of this shit even matters. If it mattered, okay, fine. But this time, like, not only are my characters being desecrated and turned into hollow husks, but I literally don't give a shit and I'm being forced to read literal just words that don't matter. And then otherwise, if it's not shit like that, like numbers and dumb bullshit, it's just boring like ChatGPT generated dialogue. Because like he only has like one panel per character in like every chapter. So there's no time for any character to actually express themselves. They can only say like the one sentence that expresses their character in one sentence. Um, it's like Black Clover, how the fillers always have Noelle hitting like Asta, like overplaying the tsundere bit, and what some viewers I've seen being like, "Hey, why is Noelle so mean to Asta? Oh, I hate tsundere," right? But it's kind of when you overplay it and only overplay that one shtick, it's in the filler of Black Clover I'm talking about, that kind of happens. So let me read this page. This is dialogue from like all the Akazaya 9, like every line is from a different character. I'm just gonna speed read it. "The right, Masterkin. We won't let you die alone. We served Lord Odin together. We might have been born and raised apart, but we'll die together. It's cold comfort coming from a band of stinking men. Raise your katana, kin. We've won the opening battle. Then I accept this fate. Let us avenge Lord Odin together. Yeah, Sir Kinemon, today's the day that we bring change to Wano. Prepare the cannons. There are so many. Who cares? We're in battleships and all they have are ferries. Time to report. I've completed my role. There's only one thing to do now. Blah, blah, blah." So can you recognize like a single character from that? You can probably recognize the gangster guy because he talks like with that like accent or like word usage, but like otherwise, like, can you tell who's who? Could you even tell that like some of those characters were like Kaido's men? Like, okay, over listening to me say it, obviously it's like it's a more of a challenge, right? But the point is still made. The point is still made. It's just like all this dialogue is just like, oh, we have to fight. Yes, for our friends. Yes, for the country. And like this is not for one chapter. This is this is like every single chapter. Even like Kaido and Big Mom just start saying stupid shit like, oh, like the winner is the one who's right. And Luffy's like, oh, well, I'm gonna win. And Kaido's like, no, I'm gonna win. And like, okay, I understand. Like this is like cool dialogue. You need to like end chapters on a cool moment, but this, like, keep repeating this for like 100 chapters, and man, it's too much. So, all right, let's see. So now I'm finally gonna talk about Onigashima arc. So honestly, this arc, it got better. It was better than the previous arcs. We at least got shit happening. Unfortunately, so I did not mind Run Piece that much, where people were like, back in the day, I remember they were like, oh, Luffy is like, so many cliffhangers are ended with Luffy like running up the stairs. I do think it's kind of stupid that like he had to like run up the stairs to fight Kaido near the end. Like, couldn't he just break through the ceilings of every floor and just like gum his way up? And yeah, and I know there's like scenes where like the flying like smiles and whatever could have knocked him down, but like he was running around with almost zero interference at sometimes, or like interference from like like tiny mobs, and like Jinbei was there next to him. Like he could have gone to the roof if he wanted to. Um, so there's that. The one thing I really did think that was kind of like Run Piece that I thought was like really bad was like when they teased Luffy like hitting Kaido with like a huge, I think this was like gear 5, with a huge gear 5 like punch, hockey hand, like blown up hockey hand. And like that was the ending cliffhanger of a chapter. And then the next chapter started, and the entire middle and the start was like all these other characters, like Hiyori and the like Raizo ninja fight, like all this bullshit, and then a flashback or something. And then literally the last 2 pages are Luffy continuing the punch. Like not only did he not move from floor 1 to 2 in this between these like 2 chapters or 1 chapter, his fist moved like 2 centimeters in midair, like that. And like that is not the problem. I don't care about like, oh, he only moved 2 centimeters, like that shit. It's not like that. It's not a physics class. For me, it's more like you're teasing this huge punch, this huge blow. You're like, oh, we're finally here. and then it doesn't happen. That is what sucks. As opposed to like, okay, if Luffy, I thought he was gonna get to floor three, but he only got to floor two, I'll be like kind of sad because I my expectations were related to floors, not like this huge blow that could end Kaido or whatever. Um, so yeah, anyway, Onigashima arc, kind of fun because it had a lot of battles from the get-go. But as soon as a battle starts, literally 2 pages in, it cuts away. It cuts away to shift the point of view, the POV, which is just absolutely cuts all the fun because you don't get to see the battle. You just see a character saying, "All right, it's time to battle." And then next, like maybe 2 chapters later, you see like a guy on the ground, and then the original guy is like, "Oh, that was a tough battle." And like I'm joking, but this is that like I mean, I'm trying to make you laugh right now the way I'm saying it, but it is aggravating because you don't get to see anything. Like if you're going to show all these characters, you have to commit at least a little bit more, or else it's worse than what? It's worse than writing all these characters in a bad way. It's also much worse than just deleting all these characters from the arc. It's also much worse than introducing all these characters in Act 1 and Act 2 and then just having them do nothing in Act 3. Like literally nothing in Act 3. I think that would have been better. I mean, during the Onigashima raid, having them do nothing like would be better than having them show up like every chapter and like pretend that they're doing something and then skipping it and then like switching point of views because when you cut to like change the point of view also you have to say like, oh, this is floor 3, this is the live room, and then draw the map of the skull, which is retarded because no matter where you are in the skull, the battle is literally not affected. It's the same freaking thing. Your strategy is not going to change because you're on the left half of the skull or the right half of the skull. Maybe it changes if you're like literally knocked off the skull, but that's like a binary choice. Like it's like a 0 or a 1. You don't need to see the skull map like probably 100 times. Okay, maybe not, but at least like 40 times. So, and just setting up, like the setup. You have to set up the scene. Like, oh, this is the background of the scene and like where people are standing. Like I swear if you literally just spent an entire chapter on like a fight and then on the next chapter spent an entire chapter on like, the scene and finished the scene instead of dividing it through these chapters, like 50 chapters, 20 chapters, we would have been done Wano in half the time, even with the same amount of content, because of all the like setup, like cool down and warm up. You know what I mean? Like you got to show this scene first in a movie before you show what the people are doing in the scene, in generally speaking. So that's one thing. Um, yeah. So let me see. You know what? Let me find a skull map image. All right, so continuing this talk on Onigashima, where did I leave off? Let me double check. Oh yeah, shifting point of view. So I understand that I think this is much easier for Oda because I've played around with like, dabbling on like making a visual novel or whatever. And one thing you start to realize is like when you have the entire scenario in your head, you can write it easily. So the thing here is, Oda, I'm assuming, was probably by doing this, he can juggle many scenarios in his head at a time, which he has to do anyway. But this way, he only has to consider the like literal next step. It's like how chat completion or AI works, I believe, or generating images, I believe, as well. I think stable diffusion. It's always based on the next step. You just generate one next step that looks like it would complete the picture. So I think in a way that's how human brains work. In a way, and so that's what Oda's doing. It's literally the I would say laziest way, but it's like laziness is a necessity to do the scale of like ambitiousness that he's doing. Right? I'm not trying to like disparage him. Like I'm saying. Um, but yeah, so it's just the easiest way when you only like you read the last chapter and you're like, okay, here in fight one, how about I add a left punch? In fight two, how about he gets defeated? In fight three, how about they start arguing? In fight four, how about they change locations? And then you can do this again for the next chapter, and this way you just only have very simple moves every time. But that sucks because you're not able to really do things in depth for every fight, I would say, because your brain only makes simple steps every time. And I swear Oda wastes many more pages by doing it this way, switching POVs. So after like probably 20, 30 chapters switching between all these dozens of points of view, we finally get the Tobiropo fights, which are kind of like, underneath the King, Queen, and Jack fights. Um, and then those are under the Kaido fights, right? I'm talking about in terms of like power level or like a final boss, mid boss, whatever. So we get the Tobiroppo, and then it takes a lot of time setting them up. Like Sanji is like getting caught in a web and whatever, and like hit by the woman or whatever for like a dozen chapters, bit by bit, until we finally get it set up. And Oda was like, "Fuck, I have to wrap things up." You know. Finally, they're set up. Um, and actually, let me find a Tobiropo image. Nah, fuck it, I won't. It's not worth it. And then finally, you get literally one chapter per fight. And I'm not saying one chapter fights are not able to be good, but the chapter is like so performative. Like, oh, I'm losing my energy. This has been going on for 30 minutes. So the chapters are performative, unsatisfying. If there was a lot of like setup that actually is like aimed towards all like it's all building up to that one chapter, fine. And for Sanji's, I guess there is somewhat kind of like build up for that, like the build up to like calling Robin, I guess. But then you look at stuff like Jinbei's fight, and it's like literally the connection is, yo, I saw you once, Jinbei, but you don't know me. And Jinbei's like, okay, dude. And then it's like, a punch, punch, I win. Frankie's, what was Frankie's even? It's like, I don't know. It's just like, take one step, and the other side takes a step, and the fight is over, chapter's done. Not really any fun character stuff, I would say. Honestly, Sanji's was the best in terms of character stuff, and it wasn't even that fun. It was okay. It was okay. It was fine. It doesn't really fit the mood of like, Kaido is literally he can murder everyone and it's like a huge war, whatever. But it was a fine moment, I guess. So now we're going to like the final fight. Okay, I guess I can change image for this. So for this fight, I was having so much fun. I loved it. Obviously, I think in terms of the writing, it's very overly convenient. I don't like I understand now that, basically probably given the like drawbacks of this, how he basically turns into a shriveled old man after the form. If he was not this strong, not this current Luffy, he probably couldn't have actually, handled Joy Boy's power. That I understand. Still, in terms of like the narrative, in terms of the stuff the writer can control, not in stuff of in terms of like the world and the logic of the world. But from a writing point of view, you can kind of tell like, okay, this is way too convenient, I would say, in the sense that like, oh, I'm dead. Okay, let me just go Super Saiyan. You know, like and I guess with it's a bit different, I would say too, because even Super Saiyan is like that was the first transformation, right? I believe. Um, Here, this is like year five. You're already expecting maybe a next level, but there was almost zero foreshadowing Luffy getting a new l- gear besides in like the SBS Q&A, like getting a new gear during this Kaido fight. Like there was no actual like things that Oda left for us to be like, oh, yep. When I look back, definitely Luffy was gonna get Gear 5 during this fight because of XYZ. It's just because of meta factors, like, oh, he can't beat Kaido, so he'll probably get Gear 5. Like that's probably what we were thinking. I know there's like Nika panels and so on, but that's not what I'm talking about. Um, so anyway, I really enjoyed the final fight. Did it make the entire arc worth it? Hell no. I see like some reactors, they're like, how can you hate this? Well, they were watching the anime, so I guess it was even more fun. But how can you like hate on this? You guys have no sense of fun. Look at this. One Piece is meant to be goofy. Now the tone is totally off for all of Wano. But this final fight, I really think Oda was trying to be like be like the kids, like I'm a fellow kid and like do one of those like Gege or Fujimoto style like subversions, but I don't think he managed to do it because like when you do these subversions, you kind of have to throw away the everyday of your story, and yet when this happened, you still had characters going like and their eyes like shooting out of their heads. So when you do that too much, it kind of ruins the amount of subversion you can do. But yeah, I think this whole like super serious fight ends up being a subversion thing. I must have talked about this before on this channel, I believe, but from a writer's psychology, I think this is also he'll give excuses to himself and to others, I believe. But the true reason for doing this is that besides just like, oh, Joy Boy brings smiles to everyone's lives, blah blah blah. It's that it makes it easier for him to write the story because now he can just like, with the tone can be just chill. He can just like he can play around with what Luffy does more, and he doesn't have to think about like, oh, does it make sense as a power scaling? Does the blah blah blah? And like, and like all the powers and whatever. Oh, and I think he just got tired of it being a serious story. If you read just like his interviews, his SPS, just a lot of, if you read One Piece, you can tell he doesn't really like being that serious, right? He has so many jokes throughout Wano that sucked ass, all these gag moments that sucked, but he put them in because otherwise he couldn't make it. He couldn't make it through the arc, drawing all these boring like sped up moments without putting dropping like all these little gags in between. So this is finally him getting to like just have fun. And also, yeah, basically, yeah, just have fun and do literally whatever he wants. So, whatever, let him do it. Yeah, I would say though, it was pretty nice to see that when they actually saved everyone, and everyone, all the citizens were actually like, oh damn, we're saved, that moment was pretty I don't know if you can tell, I'm like starting to fall asleep. I'm so tired right now. Anyway, so seeing the citizens actually rejoice, that was a really good moment. I would say though that it wasn't really special. It could have lasted longer. Um, we could have actually seen like we spent so much time seeing people like suffer in these unique ways, and in the end we just get like a couple panels of people being like, "Oh, they're back, yay!" Like, so that was kind of unfortunate. Um, I would say honestly, if you've been reading in the volumes, like there's this guy called Sanada, in the like Q&A, the reader like fan letters, who like he keeps saying like erotic shit like, oh, I want to perv on peeking on Nami in the onsen as well, and Oda's always like, Kaede, like leave bro, that shit was funny. And so Sanada actually became like, actually fuck, I'm too tired to, you just look read the SBS yourself. But basically, I would say Sanada, that reader's arc, he kept sending in fan letters and like just making these jokes. That guy's arc is literally better than all of Wano arc. It's better than any characters in Wano arc, than any of those characters' arcs. I mean, yeah, well, actually, Sanji's raid suit stuff was pretty good, I guess. Even though it was like a lot of back and forth, and it was yeah. It's just like, yeah, Oda does not have the time to think about the characters acting like humans. He can only really give them like pushes, like push them one step forward, then push them one step backward for drama, then push them forward again, and then he gets the result he wants. Um, so I did think it was really cool that like that one zombie from Thriller Bark was revealed to be Kid and Killer's like the girl that they used to love. So I really wonder how they'll feel if when they learn that she's still alive in a sense, back because of Moria. And I thought that was cool because I didn't realize at all, even though there were several like hints to like this and that throughout SBS, various SBSs throughout the volumes, and until like I got her actual name and I searched it up, and I was like, wait, it says, why does it say Thriller Bark on the Wikia? When so I didn't realize at all. So that was a really cool realization. But yeah, Oda, he let me just like let me try to summarize this. I'll find like one last image. Let me get Zoro because it was supposed to be Zoro's arc. All right, so let me quickly say, yeah, I was expecting Zoro to actually have like a Sanji like level of backstory. I know Sanji's backstory was a little bit forced, but that shit hit me, man. It hit me. He did all the right things he needed with that backstory. He created some conflict with Luffy. I was like, at the very least, Zoro is gonna get backstory in Wano, and he got like technically indirectly like a couple panels about like his village. And then later in volume like 105 of SBS, which is like when Wano Arc is basically already done, it says, "Oh yeah, I'll confirm it. He is also part of the Shimotsuki family." Like, okay, it's way too late for this. Also, having like more drama would have been cool. I know like we can't really get a Luffy versus Zoro, I guess, because Zoro's whole thing is like his loyalty to Luffy now, and he likes sake. That's basically it. But anyway, so let me just sum up why Wano Arc sucks. Oda's health is not as good as it used to be. He wants to end One Piece, but it's never ending. The 5 years until it ends keeps extending. Um, he's picking up a lot of side things too, so that's not helping, like Netflix and whatever. Um, On top of that, he's already planned out so much stuff in these arcs. Like he literally has 30 names for all 30 members of like Kid's crew, like Gold Roger's crew. He has sketches for all their characters. He's planned out like so much shit. When I'm reading the SBS and like he starts giving backstories about like, oh, this is actually like Izo and I literally forgot his name. Izo and his like My Heart is a Woman's little brother's like backstory. Oh, it was Okiku, right? Like it's like, oh, this is their whole backstory with their family and whatever. And then there was like another backstory of like, oh, like what's his name? Like Fukurokuju and what's his name? The other ninja guy who's on our side, they had a backstory where the ninja who's on Raizo on our side, he caused the death by accident of Fukurokuju's sister, little sister, and that's why they have this like like urge to clash with each other. Like also so of course, without these backstories, like obviously I'm not gonna give a shit about the character. There's no hello? Hello? Okay, yeah, I was scared for a sec. So there's no way that Oda does not know this, right? Instead, he knows it, but he's still pushing ahead with this style, and I really dislike it. I hope an editor in the current like the two arcs so far after Wano, I hope they've told him to fix this. I don't know if they have. Um, because I'm not fully caught up yet. And I don't know if I plan to. Yeah, I was honestly planning to just never finish One Piece. I never thought I'd say that. I just thought I wouldn't finish One Piece. But I had to, test that guy's theory that like reading it all at once, Wano would have been good, made it better. It did not. Anyway, so he has all these ideas. Oda has all these ideas. He needs to cram them all into Wano. But you have to see it this way. It's like, oh, I only have 100 chapters, which is a crazy thing to say. I only have 100 chapters. But anyway, I only have 100, or was it closer to 150? I don't know. I only have 150 chapters. I need to cram all this in. So then he instinctively makes all the panels small. He instinctively fills every panel with text. He instinctively doesn't leave any blank panels to breathe, to let characters spend a couple panels making various facial emotions instead of just saying shit with one face. He doesn't let characters say anything that's more than the information needed, or something that reminds us like, oh, this character is the perv character or whatever. Oh, this character is the serious character. So instead you just have like performative panels that build up the arc, and because he's under so much pressure, he has to cut from this to this to that. Like every 2 pages he'll cut, and that also ruins it for the reader because I'm not really great at multitasking. I suck. But I don't think I'm so bad that the average 12-year-old is better than me, you know? I think that's why he's also losing so many younger readers because they can't keep up with the lore. That's one thing. He explains it well, which he acknowledges. That's important. Um, but he explains it well, but he doesn't like how can I put it? Like the actual like he no, he doesn't explain it well. He has all the explanations and the text is easy to understand since that presented at a basic low to like easy to read level, like with the go pieces and whatever. It's like, oh, the black side and the white side, which has more pieces. But the way it's presented, it's like, oh, we're cutting from this scene to this scene to this battle, right? Like, I'm not going to repeat myself anymore. I can't really state it better in my current state of mind and tiredness. But if you think about it a bit, like just look at, just experience it, like reread these chapters, you're gonna feel like you're just being thrown around in like those rotating teacup rides at like at a theme park or whatever. So that's that. Zoro getting like not too much focus on his own like country kind of sucked. Um, I think I still had some more things to say, but yeah, in general, Wano. The problem is it gets fun near the end. um, Not that fun. The main problem is that between every single tiny cool moment that you actually kind of had, maybe like once per 2 chapters during like the first 80 chapters of Wano, between every one kind of cool moment, there's 20 pages of nothing. Like I said, logistics or AI dialogue that you have to flip through. So I think I had a couple more things I wanted to say. Let me find like a sexy Nami photo to like close things off. Nami Wano bath scene. Oh, actually, I have a better one. Let me see. Give me 1 second. I'll pause. I'll pause. One sec. One sec. Oh, oh shit! I actually forgot to pause just now. All right, well, I gotta hope that you didn't find anything too suspicious. I'm gonna have to come back to this timestamp and double check that I didn't like dox myself or whatever. All right, so but anyway, let me pause this and all right, so we're back. I chose this image for some reason, just don't worry about it. All right, so let me see what other miscellaneous stuff I had written down. Pretty sure I still have a lot, so let me see. Interesting. All right, I'm gonna have to pause again. All right, now let me see what I had written left. Yeah, POV changing I already mentioned. Oh, okay, yeah, I actually had some good stuff I still want to talk about. Okay, so let me see how I can do this. Okay, so this is actually crazy. So literally, um, what's it called? So we have 3 pages. Let me zoom out a little here. We have literally 3 pages of like an anime flashback that Toei used to do, just filling up minutes. But Oda actually redrew all the panels, I think. Yeah, we have page one. Let me see where the other pages are. Yeah, okay, watch. 1 page, 2 page, like oh, okay, that's another thing. So we have these like 2 pages of flashbacks, um, which literally is just for no. Oh, this is because I think because Luffy is leaving, and then he hasn't told Momonosuke and or said like a proper goodbye. So this is crazy to me that you needed to like make us reread all of these scenes that literally happened just because this arc is so long, we have to like reread it. I would say even that this is the let me double check one thing. Okay, so yeah, so I would say that I have 2 examples of just like extra cherries on the top, like just he really didn't need to do it, but he made extra mockeries himself, Oda did, of the Wano arc. And so the first one is the fact that repeating is a constant problem, especially with the point of view changes. There's so much stuff that overlaps, and like the setup and the cool down of every single like scene that we get in each POV, that like when you see the same scene again, like say I don't know, Sanji versus Black Maria again 10 chapters later or 5 chapters later, you're gonna have repeated dialogue, repeated actions, reminding us what just happened, replaying things. So this like like flashback with Luffy and Momonosuke is actually just like kind of like rubbing dirt in the wound of like repetition. It's like I've never seen a manga do this. Like I've seen pasted panels, but not like with the actual text that makes you like reread all this shit. So that's one thing. The other extra mockery, so I said there were two. The extra dirt in the wound or salt in the wound would be this. Which is let me change this a bit. It's the Rakugo. He made us literally reread the entire story of the arc again, and also the most boring parts of the about the samurai and about like Komurasaki, or what was her name, Hiyori, and why? Well, technically because Luffy doesn't want to be a hero, so they can't really know about him. But still, like he's making the reader reread all this bullshit, like literally a Wikipedia article of the story. And that's literally the criticism I was giving earlier, is like this is like reading a history book with history that's not interesting. That's the Wano arc. Because it's just you get like character does this at this location in this year. Next year, this character does this in this location. That's how it feels. And with like 500 swords, they were able to go to this island from this port, and then he defeats him. It's like reading a list of events that happened, and that's why I find it so funny and like rubbing salt in the wound that he literally has a storyteller. Oda loves Rakugo and it influenced so much of this arc for better or for probably worse. But there's so many things that cause the worst that I won't even blame Rakugo for it. I mean, Rakugo, I'm sure, has lots of fun stories. And I read a manga with like called Yugami-kun Wants to Make Friends or something about Rakugo. That was a fire manga, probably 9 out of 10, maybe even 10 out of 10, because it focuses on characters. It takes its time and focuses on characters. So here we go. It's like, oh wow, I get to reread the shit arc I already had to suffer through for probably like 20, 30 hours. Wow. Fucking Denjiro cut a pig in I mean, what's it called? Denjiro got to cut up Kurozumi Orochi. Wow, like I give so much of a shit. Hey, where's the Denjiro fans in the audience? Come on, let's go. Yay, Denjiro! I actually saw like kids in the SBS saying Denjiro is cool. So whatever. Probably just based on his design and like his how he carries himself. So whatever, that's fine. But you know what I mean? Like this is so stupid. And you get this funny part that I'm talking about, right? Literally, now they're treating it like a retelling of history, in a very abbreviated, even more abbreviated version of the already abbreviated storytelling that Oda is doing with the Wano arc. Um, so that is that. Let me close these tabs real quick. All right, I think we're close to wrapping up now. Let me just fix the image real quick. All right. There we go. We don't want that fishman stinking here. All right. So there we go. And let me see if I had anything else written. Um, okay. Almost there. Just give me a second. Still trying to find it. Oh, also the Rakugo thing is kind of like a bonus extra of self-mockery is like the obsession with like the Japanese like culture and folklore, and because like the Rakugo way of telling a story is kind of similar to the way like a lot of characters and narration and stuff like, and just how scenes are presented and how dialogue goes on in the story. Like and then he entered. Oh, and what was he doing? Bum bum bum. Oh, and now you might never guess, but he actually did this. Like that kind of like storytelling. I honestly do not think that was a part of like central part of One Piece's storytelling format until Wano, and Oda just wanted to show everyone, hey guys, I love Japanese storytelling. Um, so that is the bonus mockery, I would say. What else was there? Oh, let me go over my theory, I guess. So, I mean, I've seen that one like famous image now of like the mural of like all these races and like fighting the world government or whatever. But I feel like anyway, from this arc and maybe other like stuff I've been spoiled on, I feel like my theory is that maybe gods like Nika and like a lot of other species of like humans or like fishmen too, I guess, and whatever, and just species of like humanoids, I mean, um they all like followed like Nika and like other gods, I guess. But then some humans like usurped the gods, and then those humans are the current celestial dragons, and they want to be treated like gods, and they're treating the previous people who were loyal to like Nika and like those gods or whatever as like the subhuman class now. And so yeah, I think that might have something to do with it, and I'm gonna assume like with the whole like Enel and like moon shit and whatever, like that maybe the Pluton, and given like how Fuji Mountain is shaped like a cannon and whatever, and like how the island is kind of shaped like a cannon, um Wano itself, I mean, because of like the walls around it, I think like maybe it's just a cannon that can shoot into the sky for when they have like a space invasion of Earth or whatever. Anyway, why did he have to add more? I thought for so long that the four emperors were gonna be the last like strong characters. I didn't even think the Gorosei, the five what is it, the five elders. I didn't even think they would be like fighting people, like combatants. So, I was wrong about that. But this was like 3 years ago or whatever, or 4 years ago. But yeah, I was wrong about that, and I wish I wasn't. I wish we didn't have so many more combatants, because now we have to see even more scenes. We have to see at least like one chapter per main crew member of Blackbeard's crew, of Shanks's crew probably. We need to like have at least one chapter of the God's Knights for each one of them. I'm assuming in the current arc, I won't spoil to people who came here who like only read Mono but not the latest arc. But in that arc, two holy knights show up. So I'm assuming we're gonna have like a lot of like these build up like teases and like cuts and whatever. I hope not. I have some faith in Oda. But after that, then I assume it's gonna be like one chapter, oh, and the fight with this Holy Knight is over. One chapter, the fight with this one's over. It might not be like that. I'm just saying, like, if stuff like that happens down the line, it's gonna be because he's introducing all these extra new enemies. And at this point, I assume Emu might be a combatant as well. And I assume that we might get even more people above the Holy Knights, like people that fucking rain down from the sky or something. But anyway, that was my theory. I kind of like got sidetracked. Sorry that my voice sounds like metal diarrhea right now. Um, so okay, I think three last things I wanted to say. What do I have here? Forced himself to put in everything from his book of ideas. I talked about that. Okay, two last things. I'll just say the dumber one first. Why is Kiku in the woman's bath? Like, that's fine. I don't care. I think it's kind of weird that like this traditional Japan like thing are like totally as progressive as like modern 2025 like USA in terms of like whatever like person I want to be. I think that is like kind of a bit of dissonance, but it's so little that I don't care. You know, I don't really care. Okay, I know some forums on the internet threw a whole hissy fit about it. Whatever, I don't care. But I think the whole thing about I was saying like Oda is not treating his characters as the characters they were. He's thrown away their personalities because he doesn't have time or the like brain space when he's balancing all these like hundreds of plot lines, right? Like kudos to him for doing that. But I'm saying like you can't prioritize everything. And so the whole thing about the Kiku and the bad thing, the actual part that bothers me is that like Nami and like the other girls like they don't see his dick flopping around. Like they're not like, oh, this guy and his like dick cheese is entering the water that we are currently in. And like, okay, we're just like, ah ha ha, we're just being girls, like we're just having fun in the back together. Like, I don't know, it's just whatever. Now Yamato's scene, like at the very least, Sanji reacted to Yamato. Brook blushed. Right, okay, at least that kind of makes sense, even if it's just like the base standard, the absolute bog standard needed thing from those characters. But all the characters like in the female bath just being like, oh, yeah, you know, penises in the women water. This is just normal, you know. Anyway, but that is not me talking about Kiku. That is me talking about the people's reaction to Kiku. Don't get me wrong. If you're watching this, I don't have anything to say about groups of IRL real life people. I just simply do not care. I like anime and manga people. That is all I care about. Okay, so the last thing I think I have, and I'm not gonna edit video, so if I find out I missed something, well, fuck me. Maybe I'll leave something in a comment for the 0.2 people that'll read it on the video. But why did Izo die? So you're telling me Izo died and the pink-haired dude also died? This is so stupid. We saw Izo for like a couple panels where he was like shooting random mobs and then he shot like the CP0 guy and a literal like mob CP0 guy. Most of us don't even know his name. It was given in like the SBS maybe or like some random like one panel in the story. This guy we don't even know his face. We don't know if he was killed by Rob Lucci. If Izo was killed by Rob Lucci on Wano, I would still be like, bro, like, why kill him? Why kill him? But this is even worse than fucking Neji. And like, oh, sorry for spoiling you that Neji died, but I don't think anyone cares about the spoiler. Trust me, if you're like, bro, I was just about to start Naruto, how could you do that to me? Don't worry. Even if Neji is your favorite character, don't worry. I hate spoilers, but this spoiler literally does not matter. Um, anyway, you'll understand why. But anyway, so Izo, like this is worse than Neji. Even from like I don't like all these people who are like oh power level low diff or like compare the importance of the characters and like blah 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 like trying to be all like scientific and shit. I usually think that is not a great way to approach things. But I will kind of do it here. Like I'll try to break it down to a simple thing. Like how was Neji killed? Wasn't it by like the big bad or like the big bad's number one henchman, or actually the big bad's henchman's henchman or whatever, but it was like, you know, it was meant to be like a very strong person. But Izo died to a freaking like who? Like who did he get killed by? Like I literally don't know. It wasn't CP0, right? Or did he killed by someone else? I swear it was CP0. Like CP0, I guess. Like what is that even? Anyway, these random people come in here and they manage to kill one of Whitebeard's captains. I don't know. And why kill him? Because when he's killed, all we get is literally Marco looking forlorn for one panel and being like, you know what? Bury that dog here. Bury that dog in Wano. You know, this is his home. And the Wanoese are like, yo, you know what? You right, homie. You right. And that's it. Rip Bozo, I guess. Like, why kill Izo? I'm not saying this because I care about Izo. I mean, I care about him more than the other Izakaya 9 because at the very least, he showed up before, like, he was connected to the story before he was connected to Wano, to me at least. You know what I mean? Like, he was introduced properly before these characters introduced in Wano. So by default, I'll like him more. But I don't care that he's dead. And I don't care that, like, he wasted, like, 3 panels that we had to read about him being dead. And I don't care that, like, that now that he's dead, he can't retroactively make the like 20 panels he had during this arc more meaningful. I don't care. I just care about the fact that probably Oda thinks it was meaningful in some way. Or maybe he wrote it down in his notes like before. Oh, I'm gonna give him a super epic death. And then he ran out of time and panel space, like I was talking about. And so the death ended up just being like, oh, he dead. But yeah, so it's just a reiteration of my central thesis, I guess. So, I'm sorry for just desecrating your voice, your ears with my voice. I ran out of water like 10 minutes in. That was a blunder. I've been talking for a long time, and also when I'm like sleepy or sleep deprived, my voice, bro, it's just going. So, so yeah, that's the video. I think some people said before that like they got something out of my videos, which like wow, like that is just awesome to hear, not expected at all. But that they kind of like got writing advice in a sense, or just like, just new ways to think about stories, I guess. So if this video was able to do any of that for you, or if you don't consider yourself to, you just don't care that much. Or maybe you just don't know like some ways you can think about stories or whatever. Or maybe like something else. I don't know. I'm just making all these assumptions. But, if you're in one of those states and you kind of like heard what I talked about and maybe you were like, "Oh, that's an interesting way to think about the story." Um or writing in general. If that happened, I hope, or if it didn't happen, I just hope this video was somewhat interesting to you. I just hope, yeah, I mean, I was just glad to get my honest thoughts on One Piece out. I've already been like, kind of like telling, like I told you in my previous video, I have like friends and whatever, like, um, friends, girlfriends, harem, concubines, parents, grandchildren that I can talk to about like my thoughts on this. But this one I just had to get out there. So for me, that's why I'm doing it. Um, but thank you for your time. 2025 is pretty kind of crazy year. And you the viewer are also growing up every year. You might have been in high school and now you're in college now, or you might have been in school last year and now you're working, or maybe you might have been in a long-term relationship last year but now this year you're gonna get married or you've proposed. Shit happens. I wish each and every one of you who just even clicked on this video at all, I guess, because otherwise, how would you hear this? But yeah, I wish each and every one of you just a good rest of the year. This could be my last video. I don't know. So I just want to say things right. Um, yeah, it's definitely hard to be sincere online, and I'm always trying to check myself to make sure that I'm saying things I really mean. Um, but yeah, I mean, One Piece, I hope the story, I think it really might end in like 4 years at this point, but it is currently like 4 years since Oda said in 20, actually, it's like, yeah, 4 years since in 2021, he said, oh, the story's gonna end in 5 years again. So I don't know how he thought post Wano was gonna only be 2 years. um, yeah, I'll leave off on this. I have not been enjoying manga anime and manga as much. I think because I have like a more like analytical mind nowadays when it comes to like storytelling, because I actually kind of spend some time studying like how stories work and so on. Um, and definitely I have not been enjoying shonen manga as much, although I would also say shonen manga is just getting worse. And maybe it also has to do with like people are studying past works and seeing what worked so much that things are clumping together into one accepted solution. When maybe that's actually only a local minimum. You know how in like machine learning or whatever, like I think there's things called like a local minimum. How you think about that is like this. Think about like you have like a bunch of mountainous hills, right? Like from left to right, just like a bunch of hills. Let me use my mouse, see if I can bring my mouse up. Okay, okay, I'll just do it like this. So see, watch my mouse cursor, like a small hill, a big hill, a really deep like hole, a mid hill, a high hill, right? You have all these like mountains. And so if you take a ball and roll it down from one hill and it lands here in this local minimum, right? Why is it a local minimum? Because here is this huge hole where Kaido and Big Mom got sent down into the magma, right? So in this local minimum, which is less deep, if you're the ball that fell into here, rolled down into here, and you use your eyes and look around to the left and to the right, you're like, oh, this is a wall. This is a wall. When I look up, I see the sky, you know? So from all I can tell, this is the as low as I can go from what I know. That's a local minimum because you don't know there's a bigger one here beyond the walls, right? So, um, why the frick did I bring this up? I was talking about enjoying anime and manga. Oh yeah, so I was saying like if you're like studying what worked, right? Might say like, oh, look at Dragon Ball, which got so huge. That worked because its formula was like more stronger enemies, stronger main character gets stronger, transformations. And then you get like the next generation, I guess, where you have like and then you have, or I guess that's also previous generations with like Devilman, but the next ones with like, oh, tail beast, inner beast trope, inner demon trope, blah blah blah. And then people are like, oh, maybe I have to include one of those for the story to be good. And then I'd say that's why everyone is trying to do the safe route, because otherwise you can't survive. So that's why the quality is maybe still higher than Western works, because in the West you have people just funding shit that because they want to fund for whatever reason. At the very least, it's still kind of a meritocracy in Japan, in these like magazines, but still like the meritocracy part is like because they're overstudying the local minimum, I would say. I feel like I'm saying something really smart, you know, that's pretty rare, very rare that I say something kind of smart. So next step would be trying to figure out how we can like break out of um, the local minimum. Maybe Jump Plus and online mediums are a start to that. But anyway, I gotta stop, guys. I gotta stop. This video is gonna take like freaking a billion years to upload now that it's like 1 hour long. Um, all right, guys. I just hope you enjoyed the video. Um, and yeah, hope you had a good time. Bye bye.